Welcome to our JAMS author interview series, where we give you a glimpse behind some of the research that gets published in the Journal of the American Musicological Society. I'm Esther Morgan Ellis. I'm the digital media editor for JAMS, and today I am speaking with Dr. Gavin S. Lee, senior lecturer in historical musicology at the Sydney Conservatorium and honorary senior lecturer at the University of Adelaide. Welcome, Dr. Lee.
Thank you for this invitation.
So, could you give us a brief summary of the topic of your article and the argument that you make?
Yeah, so the article is a rethinking of difference. Difference is something that we are familiar with, even just in terms of institutions. AMS or SMT usually has a range of committees dedicated to issues of equity, inclusion, and so it seems to be something familiar. But what this article does is to kind of tease out the implications of it that are not as often recognized. So even just with the existence of those committees, for instance, there are differing interpretations. Some people see them as evidence that anti-racism has been achieved, but others see them as evidence that there are persisting problems to be resolved. And so what I do in the first part of the article is to give an overview of the past 10 years of notable incidents in music studies that have involved the issue of race. And we live in a time where such issues are of particular importance. And so when we turn inwards to look at the music disciplines, it's more important than ever to recognize complex sociality and to hone our analytical skills. So, and then what I do in the second part of the article is to examine instances where a too simplistic notion of difference doesn't quite work because sometimes, for instance, there are cases where we see a statement that's problematic, but then we don't see other aspects of that particular incident or person or statement. And then sometimes the audience see themselves as being on the anti-racist side without kind of further analysis, and that actually stumps the progress of our understanding of the whole situation. What I propose as a kind of response to that is to move towards ambiguity. Very often, people of color and people around the world are understood in terms of resistive identities, and that's often true. But at the same time, marginalized peoples do suffer oppression and are also undeniably sometimes exerting other forms of oppression themselves. This is often the case if you look at instances of sexism around the world, for instance. And so what I'm moving towards is a more complexified argument. In particular, when we think about difference in terms of infinite differentiation, which is basically how capitalism functions if you think of the supermarket. And then if you think in terms of that logic and you apply it to the certain concepts such as global modernities, the idea here is there's multiplicity, there is cultural relativism, and that notion of autonomous global modernities has replaced an older version, older worldview where you look at the haves and the have-nots in terms of, let's say, the first world and the third world. But when we think harder about persisting economic realities of asymmetry and countries caught in forever debts, then we may start to realize that maybe something is missing from that picture. So what I'm arguing for is a combination of different definitions of difference being put into play, and sometimes also analyzing it in tandem with the concept of universality, if nothing else, to pinpoint persisting universal structures like capitalism that have to be addressed when we think about when we construct our worldview. So that's what the article is about. Yeah.
So can you tell me what you find the most fascinating about this area of research?
I have always tended to lean towards aspects of research that deal with equity. And so my work delves into issues of race, gender, and sexuality. And this article in particular is kind of the result of the past 10 years or so of my thinking about some of these fundamental issues. I think, very often there's a need to clarify what exactly are the ethical states in addition to looking at actual historical and ethnographic case studies to further analyze the concepts that we are using to understand those case studies.
So could you tell us a little bit more about how your article extends existing knowledge in musicology or contributes to other discussions about music?
So there is quite, not large, but there's a distinct body of work analyzing the concept of difference outside of musicology. There's an actual book called Difference, for instance. And so what I do is kind of extend that into musicology. In a way, it's building on the kind of last, what I see as the previous few kind of like interventions into the concept of difference by, for example, James Curry, Oliver Blochel. And so this is kind of bringing it up to what the rethinking of difference looks like in 2025, 2026, when there's been enough of an accumulation of controversial incidents in the music disciplines for us to look back at it and then think about what this past 10 years have meant for the music disciplines in the context of changing political atmosphere that has shifted rightwards. And so, this is a sort of updating and further building on previous work in that area.
So what would you like a student or somebody new to musicology to take away from your article?
I think when we are approaching a controversial incident, it's very tempting to try and distance ourselves from it, almost kind of like bifurcating ourselves. You try to be on the right side of history, and then that statement or person is cast as being on the wrong side of history. But I think historical and ethnographic case studies are almost 100% of the time more complex than that. I think there is sometimes a tendency to adopt a social media response almost to kind of take a sort of black and white view of things. I think that what I would like students to take away is to pause and to be able to analyze the complexity of issues. Historical actors are often caught in situations where there are no good options. If you look at the May 4th movement in 1919 in China, for instance, which was a large-scale westernization movement, that was something that happened after 8 to 9 decades of semi-colonization. And by that point, the Chinese population kind of felt that there was no other option. So they decided to do full-scale importing. They brought in Western military, Western science, everything Western, including Western art music. And so that's the context in which we have to understand the Western-sounding kind of music coming out of the period. It is a kind of last-ditch effort to turn things around and it was done in the service of a decolonial future. And so this is the kind of maybe multifaceted analysis that I would like students to bring to their work. Yeah.
Dr. Lee, thank you so much for speaking with us today.
Yeah, thank you.